For years, I thought that I had a commitment problem. I was always moving between careers, burned out quickly, and constantly wondered if something was wrong with me. Maybe you felt that too. You get excited about ideas, but eventually you feel scattered again. And the advice everyone gives you is always the same thing. It's just pick one lane or just pick one thing. Here's what I eventually realized is that multi-passionate and creative people, they don't need fewer interests. They need one anchor. And once I understood that, everything changed. So I stopped trying to force myself into one single career path and started building a business that actually fits who I am. And today I'm going to show you the framework that helped me do just that. I'm an associate marriage and family therapist working towards becoming a fully licensed therapist, of course, and I have plans to open the door to my own private practice later this year. Before that, I spent years in graduate research, running an advertising business, and worked inside the entertainment industry. So when I talk about career designs, I'm coming at it from two angles. One is clinical psychology, and the other is real business experience. And there's actually a large body of research on something called the person-centered fit. It shows that people tend to thrive when their work aligns with who they are. But what I noticed was that nobody was talking about the person-business fit. What does it look like to build something that's actually an extension of you? So I started combining the research with my own experience, and eventually I developed what I call the Anchor Toybox Career Framework. And it has 3 phases. That's explore, anchor, and express. Phase 1, explore. And this is all about understanding the patterns of who you are. Most people start with business ideas. Clarity usually starts with self-understanding. So in this phase, you explore 10 areas of your life that reveal patterns or even hidden patterns. And these are the shadow self, aptitudes, skills, strengths, interest, unique attributes, knowledge, experience, life themes, and finally, values. And I give more detailed explanation on each one of these 10 items over on my Substack for free. So if you're interested in reading a little bit more about that, just check it out over on Substack. And I do want to spend a little bit of time right here with values. In acceptance and commitment therapy, also referred to as ACT, values aren't goals, they're directions. They represent how you want to show up in your life and your work over time. But this is where a lot of people get it confused. For example, someone might say, being a multi-passionate is my value, but it's not a value. That's an identity statement. A value describes how you want to live and act, not simply just who you are. In ACT, we also use something called a choice point. The idea is in that any moment, we are either making either a toward move or an away move. A toward move brings us closer to the type of life we want to live, while an away move pulls us further from it. And values help guide those decisions. For example, some of my passions are sewing, designing, writing, but those activities themselves, those are not the values. When I look deeper at what's happening internally while I'm doing these things, I notice something else. I feel creative, I feel free. So the values underneath those passions for me would be or are creativity and freedom, and amongst others, but I think I'll stick with the 2 values just for example. But once you start identifying the patterns just like these, the next phase becomes much easier. And this takes us to phase 2, finding your anchor. This is where everything begins to come together. Now, multi-passionate, creative people, they do not lack direction. They usually have too many directions pulling them at once. And I want you to think about a boat out in open water in the ocean or near the ocean. If the boat doesn't have an anchor, the waves decide where it goes. It drifts with the current or gets pulled in different directions, and no matter how much movement there is, it never really settles anywhere. And that's what it can kind of feel like when you have so many different interests, but no organizing center. You start things, you get excited, but eventually the current pulls you elsewhere. Now imagine dropping an anchor. The water might still be moving, life can still be unpredictable, but the boat, it holds its position. That's what the anchor does for multi-passionate and creative people. It doesn't eliminate your interests, simply gives you a stable center to organize around. That's why things can start to feel scattered. But when you identify your anchor, those pieces begin to organize themselves. Your anchor is the core transformation or contribution that connects everything you do. It isn't your niche, it isn't your job title, it's the underlining way you tend to create value in the world. For example, a therapist's anchor might be emotional clarity and healing. A teacher's anchor could be understanding and insight. A designer's anchor might be beauty and thoughtful function. I believe my anchor is transforming deep personal insight into practical guidance that helps people live, work, and relate more consciously. And when I look at my background, education, psychology, transforming lives, entertainment, creative work, to me, it all connects through that same spread. And you are the one who gets to identify what that common thread is. For me, that thread is helping people translate insight to meaningful change. And once you know your anchor, decision-making becomes so much easier because every opportunity can then be filtered through it. And if something doesn't align with your anchor, you could say no without the spiral of self-doubt or FOMO, the fear of missing out. And then within this phase, we have the toy box. And this is where multi-passionate, creative people get their freedom. Once you have your anchor, then you can build what I call the toy box. Your toy box contains the different ways your anchor shows up in the world. For example, my toy box is my YouTube channel, my podcast, any potential books I ever write in the future, digital products, brand collaborations, and so forth. And on the surface, these can look like completely different things, but they're all expressions of the same anchor. So instead of feeling scattered, they actually reinforce one another. The toy box provides variety. The anchor keeps everything aligned. And then we have phase 3, which is the express phase. Once you know your anchor, you can start building offers around it. And this is where the traditional business strategy starts to come in. That's market research, validation, branding, pricing structure, marketing. There's so much more that goes into this phase, but again, we're kind of just sharing a broad overview. But I think one simple way to begin translating your anchor into an offer or product is by using this formula. That's I help blank solve blank so they can blank. So for example, for my private practice, I have something like I help thoughtful professionals struggling with anxiety gain clarity so they can lead and live more intentionally. On this channel, I help creatives and multi-passionate people who feel scattered gain clarity on how to build a business that actually fits them. And if I were to create my bracelet business down the line, which I still kind of plan on doing, it would be something like I help ambitious women who carry the weight of everything find moments of stillness so they can move through their day feeling grounded instead of reactive. 3 completely different offerings, but they all come from the same anchor. And then of course you can always comb out and massage those offers. But essentially, that's the framework working. That's the general idea. So your first step, if you want to try this out, I created a free inventory worksheet that covers the explore phase. Now, if you like this and you want special activities for each section in the explore phase, we can absolutely do that because I basically did an activity for each one. But our friend Chatty G and all AI sisters can also help us do this too. So I even created an AI prompt that you could just copy and paste, and that will also help you just give you some ideas on identifying your anchor. Now, of course, you don't need that. I think it's always better for you to kind of discover it yourself or to work with the coach to help you kind of be that mirror. But, if you're a DIY type of person like myself, that will be all over in my Substack. That's completely free and it is in the link below. And I will be using that in more different ways. I'm really liking that platform. I just got to get a good system down for it. So there's going to be more resources there in the future. But anyways, like I said, once you know your anchor, everything becomes easier. Your niche, your content, your offers, your direction, because you're no longer building a business around trends. You're building a business around who you actually are. So don't let those 10 areas overwhelm you. You don't have to figure them out all alone. You have ChatGPT. Like I said, you can go to a coach, talk to, maybe even do it with a friend. You have that AI prompt, and I would love to hear what you guys discover when you fill out your own identity canvas. All right, I will see you in the next post.